welcome to this first Swift programming tutorial for anybody wanting to program basically anything on an Apple or a Linux device. Or not everything on a Linux device, but some things you can use Swift for. But yeah, mostly anything for an Apple device, you're going to want to learn how to use Swift. This will also be the beginning or intro to the iOS and Mac development tutorial, which I'll be starting off soon. So yeah, anyway, let's begin with tutorial number 1. First thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have a Mac. Unfortunately, Windows and Linux machines cannot do this. Not yet, anyway. But yeah, the first thing you're going to want to do is go ahead and open up the App Store and find Xcode. And you are going to want to download that and on your computer. And after that, you're going to go ahead and open up Xcode right here. It'll there it goes. Then you're going to want to go to File, New, and then Playground. And it's going to ask you for a name. It's going to click blank. It's going to ask you for a name. You're going to just call it whatever you want. I call this one Tutorial 1. Yeah, Swift Tutorial 1. Anyway, we're going to go, and it'll pop this up right here for you. So yeah, this is the first thing we're going to learn. How is, you see, first thing we're going to learn is that if you go to, where is it? Well, if you click this play button right here, it will go ahead and pop this open. It's taking a minute because I'm recording at the same time as I'm compiling this, so it'll take it a little bit. But yeah. There you go. It says Hello Playground, just like what we have written here. I can change this to whatever I want to be like Hello YouTube. And we can run this again. Like I said, it most likely won't be take this long on your computer, but it's just taking a longer time for me because I'm recording at the same time as I am running this. So I believe there is a option here to debug, editor, navigate. Anyway, there's also an option. I'll figure it out for the next tutorial. There's also an option you can click to have it run automatically for you every time you change the code. But yeah, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn about variables today. And as you can see here, right here I have this, it automatically created this thing. It says var greeting is equal to hello YouTube. You see it prints out hello YouTube right there. There's also this import Coco thing. This is not important for right now. All you got to know is you want to keep this in here for now. It's important. Let's help it run. But anyway, any variable is going to start off with var, and then you're going to name it. So I'm going to name it, like, for example, name, and we are going to put equals, and then we're going to put, like, for example, John, and it's yelling at me and being slow, but anyway, go ahead and play it again. As you see, it says John right there, just like it says hello YouTube. This is what's called a string variable. It is essentially any variable. It shows it right there, but it's basically a string of characters or letters or numbers that you can easily print the string to the screen. And we can also force it to be a string variable by saying var, let's say last name, we're going to put colon, and we're going to put the string like it's showing there. You want to put a question mark and an equal sign again, and you're going to put the actual value. So it's going to be John Doe, and then if I run this again, it's going to say Doe. But if you notice, if I go ahead and change this to, for example, I'm going to remove the quotation marks and put 45 or 34, it is going to give me this error here. It's going to say cannot convert value of int to specified type string. This essentially means that because I'm forcing this to be a string, it can't. I'm trying to pass in a number instead of a letter, a number. I'm passing in this number instead of a string, so it's complaining because it can't do anything because I'm saying it has to be a string. And of course, I can fix that by just removing the string parts, and it will stop yelling at me, and it will say 34. But yeah, and then I can also, like as you can see, if I can go to John, I can change this to like 2.3, and it, as you can see, it says 2.3 and 34. We can also do addition with numbers. They can't be strings though, they have to be regular numbers and integers, but I can say like name plus last name where, well, let's change this to like 2. And yeah, this again, it should say 36. Yep, there you go. But yeah, you can do addition, basic arithmetic like addition or subtraction, and you can do multiplication, so name times last name, and then divided by last name. You'll see these are all different operations you can do arithmetic with. So you see you got 33, 68, 0. Now you'll notice something here with the division is that, because these are both integers, as it said earlier, ints are a whole, real whole number. They can't be a decimal or anything like that. They can't have any floating point numbers at the end of them. So because this number is less than 1, or it's less than, I believe, 0.5, it automatically rounded it down to 0 because it's an integer, which we'll get into that in a later video. But yeah, because these are not both doubles, they cannot be, it will produce an integer, and it will round it down to, or up, depending on what the value is, to the closest whole number to keep this an integer. But yeah. So we can also do, for example, name modulator and then last name. This will essentially take the, if I were to actually divide, what this means is if I were to divide these two, name and last name, this will print out the remainder. This will put the remainder into the variable or whatever I pass this into. And also variables, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but they are meant to store information to make it easier. So for example, if I'm trying to do some operation or have some piece of code and I don't want to have to put in like name divided by last name every time, I can store it into a different, or I'm sorry, like 34 divided by 2 every time. I can change it to a different number. I could store it into something else and put that variable instead. For example, put name divided by last name. So that way, if I change names, for example, last name to 4, you'll notice that all these numbers are going to change because I don't want to insert prediction. I want to run the code. But yeah, you notice all these numbers change to the new last name variable. And yeah, there's also another variable type called a double, like I mentioned before, which is going to be like, we're going to say, we'll call this one money. So we'll say var money is equal to 50.5. And then this is called a double, which means that, like I said earlier, you can store floating point numbers or non-whole numbers. And yeah, but yeah, there's one more thing I want to demonstrate in this video. I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these, and I'm just going to also introduce the idea of a var name again. Just say John again. For this example word, yeah. If I try to change it, I can change anytime. Just say name equals Josh. And now if I print this, it will say John, and then it will say Josh. And then if I say name one more time, it'll say Josh again. But yeah, as you can see, we can change variables anytime we want to, and they'll only show what their latest value is at the time that you type them in the code. But there's one more little trick we can do here. We can change this var to a let, which means this is a constant, which essentially means, like it's saying here, is it cannot assign the value name to a let constant, because that means that we cannot change this after if we first set a value to it here, we cannot change it ever again. So it will, because we're trying to change it to Josh, it won't let us because this is a constant. But if we change this back to a var, it will let me change it again, I believe. So yeah, anyway, this has been variables for your first tutorial in Swift. In the next tutorial, we'll learn about if statements and if and else statements, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.